Hi there. So I just bought a brand new Taranis radio. Pretty excited about it. Pretty amazing.
Welcome to OpenTX.
First thing though, first night I had it,
Switch on.
my daughter yanked it off the table and broke my antenna. So we're going to replace this antenna with just one that we've bought off of eBay, fairly inexpensive, and let's get into it. Alright, so here's everything that we're going to need to get started. I've got a screwdriver. Luckily it's just a Phillips. This one is a single 0. I've got solder. I've got the replacement antenna. We've got a pair of needle nose pliers. I like the curved ones. And then we have hot glue gun as well. Alright, let's take her apart. Okay, first thing to do is remove the battery. Flip it over. Plug gently. Set that aside. Now there are screws. There's one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here on the radio. So let's just remove those. Phillips head screwdriver, like I said, something with a long neck to get down in there. A little more loose. Bang it on there. Now we've got them. Set all of our screws aside. And we have the radio. Go ahead and remove this little cap here. And gently separates like this. Okay. You don't want to pull too hard because as you'll notice, you've got different wires and such in here. It's a little hard to see, or you can just let it fall like that. Now these ribbon cables here are easy to remove. These gray bars, you just want to gently pry away. We want to do that to go ahead and just be able to separate the two sides of the radio. Give us a little more working room where we need it. Gently pull those ribbons out. And then mine actually still has the tape on it because it's so new. So I'm just going to remove that. And then we have the two sides of the radio. Working on the antenna on this side here. So we'll just set this side aside. Alright. So as you can see, the antenna just comes through here and then into the lead, and it's secured by hot glue. Just a dab. Let me zoom in. Okay, as you can tell, there's your hot glue that's securing the tab. So what we're going to do is try to remove this hot glue, and then that'll give us access to the antenna that we can desolder and then thread the new antenna in. In order to do that, I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver. I want to be careful. I don't want to touch all these leads, and I want to be very gentle about it. Trying not to scratch the PCB board. I'm doing it a little, I'm sure. Come at it from all sides. Some people might want to heat this up. I think it gets a little messy that way. So if you're doing it this way, it's best when it's kind of cold, which is hard to do this time of year. It's July in Texas, so it's just a little hot. Being careful to avoid any circuitry and just gentle pressure. Gentle pressure. There we go. Alright. There we go. Now as you can see, we have the antenna here, and it's actually tied in here and then also grounded. So let's dive into it a little more. Alright, real quickly, I don't know if you can see this or not on camera, but with the antenna, there are, it's actually two parts. You have the negative and then you actually have the antenna wire. So the antenna wire is this very tiny little piece right at the end. And then around the upper part you see the shielding up here, which is actually the ground. So there are two parts to this antenna solder. There's the very tip, which is the actual antenna wire, and then there's the solder. As you can see, it's over here off to the right. So it's a very tricky process, and definitely recommend that you have some soldering skills. I've actually put a brand new tip on my soldering iron just because I had it lying around, which would give me extra fine point accuracy. So beware going into this. So okay, the first thing I want to do is make sure that there's a little bit of solder right on the tip of mine so it can wick away some of that heat. So we'll just, and again, I'm just going to touch, not spending a whole lot of time on it particularly, just trying to touch it off. It's a little difficult. I know I'm blocking the light with my fingers. Okay, so there's the ground off. We're just going to touch the diode there and pull it off. Bam, just like that. Okay, and as you'll see, this is actually the ground here, and then that very tiny little speck is the antenna itself. Alright, now that that's out, let me zoom back out and then we'll go ahead and take the antenna out of the package altogether. These antennas are held in. It's a little thing right here that you can just squeeze and push out. So needle nose pliers, just squeeze it and push it out through the housing. You see that loosens it right there, and pushing it out. Squeeze and push. And the curved nose is great because you can get into places pretty easily. And there it just twists and pops out. So we're going to switch direction I'm going here. There's a little tab here, right here, and you'll see, I don't know if that's easy to see or not. In there, there's a little tab that it lines up with, so we'll just make sure that we hit it correctly. And just kind of squeeze it in. And she just clicks in. Alright. Now, forward to the fun part. Let's get her soldered into place. Very tricky, very, very tricky. Okay, as always, clean off your soldered tip. And we're going to go ahead and tin both parts of the wire here. Tin my iron here real quick. Just apply a little heat there. I'm actually going to come from the other side. Just a tiny bit. Okay. We'll use the pliers to hold us down here. Alright, I'm going to reposition my light. Well, you know what, now that I think about it, I do want to try to clean off this pad as much as I can, because I want to try to use the same solder. Anytime you're doing new soldering, you want to make sure it's all the same solder. So fresh solder with fresh solder. Just kind of clear that off a little bit more. Make some of that away. We'll go ahead and tin the pad. Just bring it right to it. Try it with the fingers, a little easier here. So I'm going to do the actual antenna wire first. I'm just going to touching. Very tricky. Just touching, like I said. There we go. And now we'll do the ground and just touching. All right. And that should be what we need. So you see, again, we have just the antenna itself touching there, right at that very tiny little pad, and then I have the ground over here. A little high on that peak, but I think it'll do. We'll cover it nicely with some glue and check it. But first I want to check it to make sure that it's all connected right. So I'm going to reattach my cables and then power it on, and we'll see that it works. Okay, let's fire up and see what she does. Okay, now let's fire up and let's make sure everything's fine.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Alright, fail-safe warning. And there you go, everything is back to normal. So now let's just button her up, get those screws back in, and we'll be good to go. Okay, now we're just going to cover the connection that we just made with a little bit of hot glue, just to kind of give her a little security there. And I'm also going to dab her right here, just to let that wire stick. All right.
Welcome to OpenTX.
There's your radio
Switch warning.
with a working antenna.